Welcome to Inside the Indians, your source for insider information on the Tribe. Stay with us as we bring you the latest about the players, managers, and people behind the scenes at Victory Field. Now here's your host, the longtime broadcast voice of the Indians, Howard Kellman.
Welcome to Inside the Indians. Today's show features manager Brian Esposito, head groundskeeper Joey Stevenson, and third baseman Keep Ryan Hayes. Back with Espo in just a moment. Our first guest, as always, the skipper of the first-place Indianapolis Indians, Brian Esposito. Espo, tell us the difference for you in managing a game, a National League game, with a pitcher bats, as opposed to American League game where there's DH.
Well, both games are interesting to manage, especially nowadays, because you can use your bench a lot, and even in an American League game where you have a DH for certain matchups. But when you're managing that National League game, there are a lot of things they take into consideration. It's availability of your bullpen, it's availability of who's on your bench. It's really thinking about what opportunity do you feel is the most leverage opportunity at that particular moment on who to hit. There are situations where it could be earlier in the game where you might feel that that's the leverage opportunity for you to use maybe your best hitter off the bench and not just save him for the back end of a game. Is this an opportunity for us to turn the lineup over and keep this pitcher in and try to get some more out of him because you're short in the pen? There are a lot of things that go into it, but a lot of it is kind of planned out before the game. But as always, the game's going to present a lot of things to you. Some are unexpected and some go as planned. Very, very seldom does it go as planned, so you're always expecting the unexpected and the unpredictable, and you're just keeping tabs with the game. So it really keeps you on your toes. It really keeps you thinking. In my opinion, I enjoy managing a National League style game.
Is the lineup, the batting order, more important in a National League game?
Yes and no. The lineup really matters to me the first time through. The way the game has gone with a lot of teams not having their starting pitcher go deep in the game or not facing the lineup 3 times through the lineup, it comes into play now a little bit. Down here is different than the big leagues in a National League game because we have the reliever rule in effect where a reliever has to face a minimum of 3 batters. So that might come into play a little bit. So you can be a little strategic in how you line your certain guys up for matchups. But nowadays, if you look at how the splits left and right go, there are a lot of left-handed hitters that are hitting left-handed pitching better as far as average is concerned. So pick your poison, and making the lineup, you still want your guys where they need to be. And, the biggest thing that I want is a professional at bat in that 8th spot right before the pitcher. I want a guy in there that knows how to handle the bat, that can go outside the strike zone a little bit to be able to drive in a run with 2 outs and a couple strikes on him to protect that pitcher and move along. So that's the one thing that I really am particular with as far as the lineup is concerned.
And I was about to bring that up. That number 8 hitter is a big key. Also, you mentioned driving in the run. How about if there are 2 outs and nobody on? If he can get on base, you can turn over the batting order.
Yeah, exactly, too. You want a guy that can really put a professional at bat up there. It's not always going to mean that we're going to turn the lineup over, but it's going to make that other team do some work on the pitching end of it. So this guy might drive up the pitch count of a particular pitcher and chase him out earlier because they want to get to that pitcher, but they don't necessarily want to just lay some cookies in there for that 8 spot. So it's very important for me.
And another way the number 8 hitter can help you, if there's nobody out or 1 out, if he can get on base, then you can have the pitcher sacrifice and be productive with his plate appearance.
Yeah, no doubt. You're always looking to move runners up. It's a lot easier to score runners from second and third than it would be from first and second. It eliminates the force play. It eliminates, that tough diving play up the middle where there's a force out in the middle of the field. So anytime that you could get that pitcher up with less than 2 outs, it gives us an opportunity to do some things. It creates holes in the defense. A lot of times they'll try to get strategic and trying to force plays to get the lead runner. And it also, again, it forces defenses to be perfect and make plays. So we want them to handle the ball and be perfect.
And one of the things you do so well, and this is something people wouldn't talk about because they don't see this, it's before the game. All the work you do with the players. Give us an idea for a 7 o'clock game, what your workday is like with the players.
It's a blend nowadays of finding time for the individual specific needs of each player as well as the collective teamwork that needs to be done. There is a lot to be said about having our players learn how to play with each other, communicating, knowing who's able to do what. and what the game is going to present to us. So a lot of our teamwork is geared around, number one, is there a particular fundamental that we need to brush up on to make sure that we're able to execute it? And if the game doesn't present these situations to us, we need to recreate them so our players are experiencing what they need to experience if the game is not giving it to them, so that when they do see it, they're prepared for it. And then there's a ton of individual needs that we'll do prior to our teamwork, where, you know, whether it be bunting with a player, whether it's individual defensive work, whether it's individual hitting work, base running, there are so many different tangibles that a player needs to have this day and age that, you know, is on an individual level, but how does he bring that component to the collective team game? So there's a lot of work that gets put into it.
When they work and you work with them, doesn't that help confidence when the game starts?
Well, that's what you want. You want these guys to experience, or some of the failures that they're going to experience, to be done in the workday, so that by the time they get into the game, they feel as though they've already played many games beyond what the stat line is going to tell them that they played. Train as close to the truth as possible. Whether it be a hitter's velocity, as close to the velocity of a game they're going to see, or ground balls that are hit, whether it's just, you know, off a different, whether it be a tee or some flips or front toss, to recreate what they're going to experience in the game, as opposed to just your regular traditional work. We try to expand the horizons and elevate, you know, what a player is going to see in the workday to get them prepared for the game.
And there are also guys who take extra batting practice.
No doubt. You know, it's always about just finding out where that player is, what he needs, and what's going to put him in the best position to succeed, whether that be from a confidence standpoint or a fundamental standpoint or a physical standpoint.
On the last show, we talked about your new coaches. Let's talk about Ryan Long, back for his second year. Your thoughts on him?
Yeah, Ryan does a tremendous job of, you know, of just meeting these players where they are. You know, he's a really good relationship building guy. You know, he knows all the ins and outs about all these players and what makes them tick, and he's able to reach them in ways that some people aren't. A lot of times he's the good cop and I'm the extremely bad cop, which is fine. We like that dynamic. But he also, when he speaks, these guys will listen, because they know that he is tight with these guys, but yet he will put his foot down when, you know, we're starting to veer off course a little bit. So from a tactical standpoint, you know, he's a really good hitting coach. He could see some things that a lot of other guys can't. From a game planning standpoint, he's really good as well. I mean, you know, these guys are prepared for that night's starter. They're prepared for what's going to come out of the bullpen. Puts a lot of these guys in a really good position to succeed. So
something we talked to him about last week, and you now, you know, we talk about how confidence is everything. Sometimes you saying the right thing at the right time to somebody can mean everything in the world to them.
You know, this game is really hard. It's really hard, and it revolves around confidence, and it's always nice when you have some people around that can instill confidence. So that's exactly what he does. He makes these guys feel like they're the best hitter on the planet, and that's what you need sometimes to go out into the batter's box, is just to feel like you're the best hitter. You don't necessarily have to, you know, physically feel it, but just having that in your back pocket, knowing that somebody believes in you and thinks that you're going to get the job done, will help exude that confidence to get it done.
Espo, thank you so much, and congrats on all you've accomplished.
My pleasure.
It's Brian Esposito on the home of the Indians, WHMB TV 40. It's a pleasure to speak with one of the unsung heroes and a man who's so great at what he does, and that's Joey Stevenson, the Indianapolis Indians head groundskeeper. Joey, always great to see you, and congratulations on all you've done.
Thank you. It's great to see you too, Howard.
I think early this season you've had to work a lot harder, you and your people, than we'd like to see you work.
Yeah, this year has been not the norm for sure, with the amount of just weather that's been in the area and kind of the funk that, you know, Central Indiana's been in for the last month and a half has not been normal.
What is it like then on a day when it may rain, when it is going to rain for a 7 o'clock game?
I think one thing we've learned this year is just to take every day as its own day. Not try to plan too far in advance. Just take what we can get each day and develop a game plan for that day specifically, and not get too tied up with what's going to happen Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, because that can kind of make us go a little bit bonkers. But just kind of concentrate each day and focus on each day and getting just that one game in.
So on a day when it may rain, how does your approach as opposed to when you have a beautiful forecast?
We move a little quicker. We try to get things done as quick as we can in the morning. So for example, if we put the tarp on the night before, we're in at 8 a.m. that next morning, and that just we take a look at the radar each day. Basically every half hour, every few minutes, we're looking at the radar just to make sure we can get our normal stuff in. And yeah, it's just we kind of do it by the seat of our pants every day to make sure we get our normal stuff ready for that particular game.
One of the greatest things today is that the fields drain so much better than those of many years ago.
Yeah. Underneath our grass is 10 inches of straight USGA root zone sand, so we can take up to 10 to 12 inches per hour, which would be something like a hurricane. Which we wouldn't be playing baseball in that weather anyway. But yeah, it's phenomenal how much rain this field can take. And I think if you look back at the stats, we've played roughly almost 99% of all our games.
That reminds me, we lost a game a couple of years ago. It was the end of 2017, a Friday, not because of the rain on the field, but because of what happened to the dugouts in the clubhouse.
Yeah, it was just a cell that sat on us for about 45 minutes and dropped about 3 to 4 inches of rain. And the parking lot was draining to our shop and into the dugouts, and the field just couldn't handle that much rain in that short of time. And yeah, everything was flooded there temporarily.
What is your communication like with the manager of the Indians? Now it's Brian Esposito. You've worked with a number of different managers here.
Yeah, I just try to communicate to them, the information that I have when I have it. They like to have a specific schedule for batting practice, a specific forecast for BP, and then one for the game as well. So I just update them. As soon as I know more information, I relay that right to Brian.
And there are times I've seen you go over to the umpire-in-chief during a game because of threatening weather. Tell us about that.
Yeah, our goal is just to get to 7:05, and then it's in the hands of the umpire of when we pull the tarp, or even if we do pull the tarp. So it's just me doing the same thing I do with our manager, getting him the information, showing him the radar on my phone, how long we think we have, the amount of rain, the intensity of the rain, and just kind of he asks for my opinion on what the field can take, and we kind of go back and forth and kind of develop a plan every half inning.
Well, in one sense, there's less pressure than there was years ago and then in the big leagues, because now if you have a game less than 5 innings, it isn't wiped out. It's a suspended game. In the big leagues, it's still wiped out, and years ago, that was the rule here.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah.
1988, it changed. Everything changed, and we started having suspended games, as opposed to everything being washed out. I'll tell you a story. In 1987, we were starting games at 7:30, and we started at 7:37 that night, 7 minutes late. Billy Moore of the Indians hit 2 home runs. Jeff Fisher was pitching great. 1 out in the top of the 5th. The rain came at the old ballpark, Busch Stadium. Everything wiped out.
Yep.
Now, that wouldn't happen now because we have suspended games.
Yeah, it seems it always comes down to that mid-5 or end-of-5 game where there's 2 outs and the rain's closed, and we're just trying to get that last out to make it a complete game. It seems like that happens more often than not.
Yeah, you want to have an official game. Have you found most of the umpires good to work with?
Yeah, most of them, when they come here, they trust us. I deal with Randy, our president and GM as well, on weather, and all the umpires and both sides, both managers seem to have good trust in all of us, and they're confident in when what we tell them is going to happen will happen.
Tell us about your background and how you became head groundskeeper here.
Yes, I originally grew up on a farm in Illinois. I graduated from Purdue in 2006. Spent some time with the Philadelphia Phillies with our former groundskeeper here, Mike Buchholder, for a summer. And then I started here in 2007, and I was the assistant groundskeeper for Jamie Maringer, who had since moved on after the end of the 2007 season, and then I became the head groundskeeper here.
What did you major in at Purdue?
I studied turf science. So I tell people a lot of the smart turf science majors go into golf courses, the not so smart ones get into sports.
Well, but that's the way your profession, and it's a profession now, has changed, because guys like you and Jamie and Mike, you study this, where years ago it might be, oh, let's get this guy, make him the groundskeeper and let him learn.
Yeah, some of the technology in our infield mixes now, to our drain systems, to our even the type of grass we choose per field is changed. Just in the 13 years I've been here, it's changed immensely. Any
thoughts as you look ahead? Do you enjoy the months of June, July, and August more with the weather nicer than April and May?
Oh, for sure, yeah. We would prefer hot and sunny and dry over wet and any time of the year, for sure.
Do you have, you mentioned Mike Buchholder, who's now the head groundskeeper with the Phillies. Do you have a desire to be a big league groundskeeper too?
I think that's always the ultimate goal. That's kind of what gets me up and going in the morning. But my family lives here. My wife is from Indianapolis. I'm a huge race fan, so living in Indianapolis is icing on the cake for me. So we're extremely happy here. So I don't foresee it happening just because the Indians have treated me so well. And it's a great city to live in.
And how many people work under you, Joey?
Right now, there's our manager of field operations, which is Adam Basinger. Then we have a seasonal assistant, Casey Werkheiser. She actually worked in Norfolk last year. And then Kevin Johnson, who actually interned with the Philadelphia Phillies last summer. So there's 4 of us.
Joey, keep up the outstanding work.
We'll try.
Thank you so much. That's Joey Stevenson, the head groundskeeper of the Indianapolis Indians, on this, the home of the Indians, WHMB TV 40. Brian Hayes, the outstanding young third baseman of the Indianapolis Indians, our next guest on Inside the Indians. Okay, Brian, great to have you aboard. Tell us your thoughts. We're about a third of the way into the season, your first year at AAA ball.
Yeah, it's been fun. It's had its ups and downs, as every season you're going to have your ups and downs, but I'm learning a lot. Pitchers are throwing me a little different than they ever have before, but all in all, it's been great.
You mentioned that, and you're probably dealing with more experienced pitchers, the likes of which you haven't seen before.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you see guys going up, down, pretty much every day almost. So I'm just thankful to be here and be able to experience it.
One of the things that's really neat, and especially for that pitcher, but the whole team, when there's a ground ball hit to you, it's a nice feeling because you're so sure-handed, soft hands, and your throws to first base are so true too. Tell us about your fielding.
Yeah, I mean, I try to work on fielding just as much as I do with my hitting because, I mean, not every day I'm going to be able to get 3-4 hits, so I got to be able to impact the game some other way. So my dad, just at a young age, always stressed to me defense is just as important as offense. So that's just how I kind of take it every day.
Well, it takes a lot of focus to be a third baseman because they call it the hot corner. Balls get on you quickly, but on the other hand, you might go 4 or 5 innings without a ball being hit to you.
Yeah, it's funny, actually, the last game that I played in, I didn't get 1 ball, but I mean, you still got to be ready every pitch because you never know. The ball could come to you, so you just got to be mentally locked in for every pitch.
It's so much different than a shortstop who's constantly involved and has something to do all the time.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in between pitches, I mean, you got to reset your mind, kind of look in the crowd or something. But as soon as he gets back on the mound, you got to be ready to go because, I mean, like you said, it's a hot corner. So, I mean, anything could be hit to you pretty hard. So you got to be ready.
Do you have a preference between playing in, even with a bag, or deep?
It just depends on the situation and what the hitter. I mean, normally on a righty, I play 8 or 9 steps behind the bag, 6, 7 steps over. But, I mean, depending on, we have positioning cards, so we kind of move depending on where the guy hits it. Like, one guy will shade the line, one guy will be a few steps out, shade the 5-6 hole, or some lefties that pull a lot but not a threat to bunt, I'll play edge of the circle, like edge of the pitching mound. So, I mean, it just kind of depends what our positioning card says.
You mentioned your dad, Charlie, 14 years in the big leagues as a third baseman, mainly with the Phillies, although I would think that obviously you've seen the video, but he caught the final out in 1996 when the Yankees won their first World Championship in 18 years.
Yes, sir.
That was a big moment. Did you talk about that much?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it seems like everywhere we go, people remember that catch. And I always joke with him because I seen the video, and the pitch before it was a similar ball, and it was like close to the dugout, like by the stairs, and he missed it and fell. So I always joke with him about that, like how you didn't catch that. But yeah, it seems like that, especially whenever he goes to New York. I mean, he'll just be walking on the street and people will notice him.
That's great.
Just because of that out. So it's pretty
terrific.
special.
And you know, we talk about your hitting too. You mentioned that you're leading the league in doubles, and I think you take pride in that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've put an emphasis on driving the ball more as I'm going up in the levels, and but there's a lot more that I want to continue to grow. Being able to hit off speed better, and still be able to drive fastball and off speed. So,
Anything Ryan Long, the hitting coach, has worked with you in particular?
oh yeah, we just been trying to work on putting myself in a good position to be able to be ready for a fastball 95, 96, and then be able to also adjust. Because as you see, the guys up here they're trying to get to the big league, so they're trying to strike people out with their best stuff. So just being able to put myself in a good position to be able to hit all the pitches.
So much of it is just trusting your hands and not trying to do too much.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, oftentimes we try to get too big and yank our front shoulder out or something like that, and just need to be short and let them supply the power.
Thank you, Brian. I thank you very much, and congratulations on all you've achieved.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's Keep Brian Hayes on the home of the Indians, WHMB TV 40. To all of our guests. See you next week on Inside the Indians.